Hello everybody, I hope everyone is doing well. In this video I will be talking about our first move within Vancouver and all the little nuances we found during this process. So in September 2021 our lease reached the end of its term and it went on to a month by month basis as is the norm here. As we were in quarantine when we selected our first place, we had high hopes to improve our living conditions after the end of the lease. However, we were in for a harsh reality check. Besides the prices being through the roof in Vancouver for rentals, the supply is also very limited compared to 2020 when we arrived. This is mainly due to students returning to in-person classes in 2021. Just as an example how high the demand was, we actually viewed a place probably about 500 meters from where I work, and I think 4 minutes after leaving I contacted the owner and he said it's already taken, unfortunately. A similar trend followed over the next 8 months and we were starting to lose hope after viewing probably around 15 properties which either didn't live up to their expectations or slipped through our fingers. In one scenario we were actually told that they decided on somebody else just to see the place re-advertised $200 above the previous asking price. But finally we found a place, and a 3-bedroom for that matter. It was also at a very reasonable price and a similar distance to work and school. At the price and for what it offered, we didn't really have high hopes after our past experiences, but we were successful. It also just happened in the nick of time, so we could give our current landlords a 1 calendar month notice. Now there's a couple of things that you need to change when you move, and some of these are time sensitive, so I will look at those I found most important first. If you are paying electricity, you most likely have a BC Hydro account. This will need to be stopped at your old rental and a new account open for the new property. In our case, the old landlords wanted to see proof that the account has been settled and closed before giving you the safety deposit back. Then also very important is your tenant insurance. In our situation, we got the keys 3 days after our official move out. This gave us 2 additional days to move some of the smaller things before the movers moved the bigger things like the beds and furniture. This did however mean that we would have valuables at 2 different properties at the same time. So you don't want to tempt Murphy, and to prevent a bad situation, it's best to contact your insurer and notify them of the date you get the keys for the new property, as well as the final date at your old property. In this way, there won't be any nasty surprises. Your new landlords will also most likely want proof of tenant insurance before handing over the keys. So while we're on insurance, car insurance is also something you'll need to change. For the vehicles it's important as the change of address might influence your premium. You will however probably still be covered the first couple of days or weeks after a new move, but do you really want to take that chance? Probably not, so rather be safe than sorry and get it changed ASAP. Then the next 2 I'll mention in one, which is basically your BC driving license as well as your BC services card. Now these 2 can be changed by logging onto the BC services website and changing your address there. Also mentioning that your driver's license needs to be changed. With regards to your driver's license, anybody that has one would know your address is on the license. So what they do, they'll send you a little sticker that you need to put on the license card over the old address. Now the next one is quite important for anybody working from home. I mean, we can go without Netflix for a couple of days, but it's important to arrange the move of your internet service. In our case, we were with Telus, and I notified them probably 3 weeks in advance. We found out for the address we're moving to that they needed to take the fiber from the street to the home, so that was additional day of installation, and they also send a person to your house to install the internet. Luckily, if you're already making use of these services, the setup after a move is for free. Now it's important to plan this well. In our case it worked nicely. We got the keys the Thursday. I think the Friday morning early they set up the internet and my wife could actually work from the new location even though we were still occupying our old location. So obviously when you switch there's no internet. So she had like 2-hour interruption before she could make use of it again. And then the next day when we moved in, the internet was sorted. Now obviously changing things at your bank would be important as well. We are at RBC, so it is quite simple to change. You need to log on to their website, not on the app, and just change your address over there. Now let's not forget the taxman, the CRA, especially if you're somebody that still receives the checks from them, or you receive paper correspondence. It is quite important to notify them. You can do this if you already have your online account. You can log in and you can change it on there. In our case it was a bit more tricky and we're still sorting it out since our PR application came through. A video for the future, and that complicates matters a bit as you need to register from scratch for the CRA online services again. And then another obvious one would be to inform your employer of your new address. And then we get to the less important things, which would be all the little accounts, your Amazon, Skip the Dishes, Instagram, Instacart, Uber, your Costco account, all of those, anything you receive in the mail that needs to be delivered, online shopping. I would suggest making a list on an Excel spreadsheet or however you prefer and ticking them off one by one. Think about all the mail you usually receive and think about the online services you use, and then try and change them accordingly. And then finally, in case you did miss something, you can cover yourself by going to Canada Post and asking them to forward your mail to your new address. I think it was about $60, and this is for a minimum of 3 or 4 months. They've got various packages depending on what your needs are. I think you could add up to 4 names on that package I took, and in our case we're Afrikaans, so we've got a string of family names as well as our names. In my case, Hendrik Johannes. My name's derived from Johannes. Yeah, so to avoid confusion, you add on all of those names, both yourself, your spouse, and I even threw my kid's name on there just to make sure we don't miss any mail coming to us. So far this has actually covered 1 or 2 that I did miss on my spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet I'll show over here just so you see what I was talking about. It doesn't have to be that way, mine isn't very organized, but it worked for me. So next up, what to do with regards to moving companies. Well, if you are competent enough to do it and you've got enough hands, you could do the move yourself and go via U-Haul. They've got quite a selection of trucks you can hire, rent, and it's not too expensive, especially for a local move. They've also got things like the dollies and some of the tie downs and things you might need for your move. Some of the wrapping and disposables you might need for a move they also have. Should you require some labor, they do offer third-party labor on their website. It obviously comes at a cost, and this brings me to other moving companies because it's pretty similar. There will be a minimum charge of probably 3 hours at least, plus the time you move. So if it takes them 2 hours to move your stuff, it's going to cost you 5 hours of labor. I think in our case we found a company that charged a minimum of 2 hours, and then I think it was another 2 hours on top of that. But yeah, they're going to charge you 2 or 3 hours straight minimum, and then charge on top of that as well. And this is before tax, of course. There might also be restrictions when it comes to heavier items or extra charges, and if the distance from wherever they're moving to their truck is quite extensive, they might charge you extra for that as well. Something that's often requested is that the property is professionally clean after you move out. Now you could risk it and do it yourself, and odds are you might do it good enough, but should they deem it wasn't to the standards they expected, that could be deducted from your safety deposit and they will get a company to clean it anyway. So you could take the risk, or you could just pay a company. Even better, ask them which one they suggest, and in that way there won't be any surprises afterwards. It's a similar thing where they will charge you 2 hours minimum, and I think it would include 2 people doing the labor. And should you want certain appliances cleaned specifically, like a microwave, the refrigerator, the dishwasher, stove, oven, whatever, there might be additional cost per item. So keep that in mind, and once again, tax comes on top of that. Because Canada does not have something like the Consumer Protection Act, there's often a lot of hidden costs, and you can probably work on adding around about 15% just in tax being added afterwards. So always keep that in mind when you're looking at quotes and prices. There will be a little bit added on afterwards. afterwards. Our move itself was quite eventful. The Thursday afternoon we got the keys. We already had some things in boxes, so straight after getting the keys we started doing a trip or two. Then I left the wife and kid behind, and I probably did another 4 trips that evening, only finishing after midnight. The reason I was pushing on the Thursday evening is because I was on call from Friday through the weekend, so I could have been pulled from the work at any stage. Luckily that did not happen, but you had to be prepared. However, the Friday, around about 10 o'clock, the power went off at our old place. It is a condominium, so we were on the 4th floor. That meant the elevators aren't working, the passages are dark, the stairwells are dark, and we've got a bunch of heavy stuff to move. So this severely disrupted the plans of being productive the Friday afternoon after work. So we tried to move as much as possible. We did a couple of trips down the stairs for some of the lighter items, and I put the stuff on me like a moving mule. I gave my kid my phone just to light the way down the stairs, 4 flights of stairs to the front of the building, then we had to go around the building. She had my phone, so accidentally she took some pictures of me moving, so I popped those up here, harness the mule. Being tired of going up and down the steps, we used the inflatable mattress to sit on at the new place. And we had dinner there. We also started unpacking some of the boxes just to make use of the time. Around about 9 o'clock, finally the power was back on. The reason for the power outage, by the way, was a tree that fell over the power line in the area. So it was basically like 2 or 3 blocks that were down. But 9 o'clock, power was back on. So I did another couple of trips that evening. My final trip, around about 11 p.m. or 10:30, the moving company actually called me. Not the most professional people. They delayed the move in the morning. They weren't going to arrive at 9, now they were arriving at 1 p.m, which actually suited me after the delay on Friday. I didn't complain too much, accepted it. It just sort of put us under pressure to get out in time so the cleaners can get in. The day went on and 1 o'clock came and went, and eventually they only pitched at 3 p.m, with the cleaners due to show at 4 p.m. So that delayed the cleaners a bit. Luckily it was the company that the building itself uses, so it didn't cause us too many problems. At least we got a bunch of our things out and we got our stuff moved over quite quickly. To save some time, if you don't want to pay for an extra hour of labor, you can disassemble some of the big things yourself and just have it ready for them. Or if you don't want to do that, they can do it for you, but just note it will take some time and you're probably going to pay for it at the end of the day. So at long last, we were in our new place and it was time for unpacking and getting nails into walls, etc, etc. But I think that is best left for a video on its own. I think it will be a video comparing our current situation, our new situation compared to the old one. Basically we moved from a condominium, as I said, into split property home basically, and I'll talk all about that in that video, explain how it works, some of the pros, some of the cons, because there are advantages and disadvantages to both of these living conditions. I hope this information was useful to somebody and that it will help you with your move going forward. If it did, please like, subscribe, and I'll try and upload more videos with helpful information in the near future. Thank you for watching, have a good one and be safe. Cheers.